Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Armando Wershing, and I am with Compasso. I run the Oracle Cloud and Enterprise Management practice at Compasso, and it would be happy to talk to you today about the Oracle Management Cloud, which is a new product being offered by Oracle, just announced a few months ago. There's a agenda we're going to follow today. Basically, just a few items. We're going to start with a brief intro and then just a couple of slides presenting the Management Cloud, the offerings within the Management Cloud product line, and then we'll go into a demo. Actually, walk through and show you some of these features that are there, what it looks like, the look and feel, what kind of information you can see, etc. Lastly, we'll have some time to answer Q&A. That Q&A, you'll be able to post those questions in your webinar control panel. There's a section there called questions. You can click on the little triangle to expand it if it isn't already expanded. Type in your question, and it'll be stored there for us to review and answer at the end of the demo. All right. With that said, just a brief safe harbor statement. As usual, we're talking about software and products that are constantly being updated and released. So as we talk about features or future functionality or pretty much anything, just be aware that this is a continuous cycle of development, a continuous cycle of release, and any of the things may or may change. If I mention them now, they may come up soon. They may be released several months from now or several years from now. So just be aware that this is your typical safe harbor statement. About Compasso, we are founded in 1995, over 20 years old now, with offices in North and South America. We're a platinum partner, and we work exclusively with Oracle technologies. We're a one-stop shop, so that means you can come to us to acquire the products, to provide education, to provide implementation support, or ongoing operations. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking today about the Oracle Management Cloud and its features and products that are out there. That's just part of the Enterprise Manager and Management Cloud practice, basically focused around IT automation and management capabilities for your data centers, for your critical applications. ERP, big area, obviously. Our focus, though, is really on the cloud ERP pieces, particularly the finance and expenses pieces of the Oracle Cloud ERP offering, as well as helping companies that are trying to do business in Brazil and applying those Brazil tax localization features or rule sets into their ERP environments. Lots of experience helping companies overcome those many hurdles. The lastly is, of course, by no means the smallest or the least important, is the commerce. We have a significant commerce practice focused on the Oracle Commerce Platform, ATG and DECA, right? Those technology pieces, and also the Oracle Commerce Cloud offering as well for those features. So B2B, B2C really doesn't matter. We're able to help you with those areas as well. Now, let's focus about what we're going to talk about today, which is the Management Cloud and the space and the role it fills in this world. We've got a pretty advanced, pretty fast-moving application delivery landscape these days, right? Not so much if we're talking about your typical back office large ERP applications, right? They still do have some change, but really when you're looking at custom applications, e-commerce sites, things like that, there's a need to keep up with fast releases and fast growth, right? You can expect there to be 200 times as many releases over the next few years, right? Each year, as there have been in the past. There's a need to reduce the number of failures. There's just no tolerance for critical issues because we're on an always-on environment, right? From now, sites are multi-global, applications are offered multi-global, multi-regional. Lots of the customers are used to having what they want when they want it and immediately, right? Not only we now not even have to wait to go to our computers to order or request a service. We're doing it from our phones, exactly where we are. So that ability to allow issues to occur and not resolve them quickly, that buffer zone is pretty much gone. So that means that if a critical issue does occur, you have to rapidly resolve it, right? That mean time to repair has to get to as close to zero as possible. So how do you do that, right? Well, over the course of time, we've definitely done this with a variety of tools, right? And those tools have evolved over time. So, at a high level, I have what I call a brief and overly simplified history of IT ops tools, right? Um, we start in the early days where we hunted and gathered for information. We ran command line scripts. We used early tools that gathered information for us. And really, we did this at the point of an issue, right? So when an issue occurred, we immediately would go back and go find deep information and start searching through it. Now that evolved into more of a farming and reporting methodology, right? You were using the same scripts, except now you had a way of automating them and capturing the output of those scripts that were running around your different servers and different command lines and capturing and exporting data. You were able to automate the execution of this stuff, gather that data, dump it into spreadsheets or files or a database or some other tool that would allow you to then report on this information, right? Now, these solutions usually involved either open source solutions, right, or some maybe more advanced tools that weren't open source and had some built-in features. But really, they were going out, gathering information, dumping it somewhere, and giving you a way of presenting it. But they were still pretty high maintenance, right? You had to develop hardware for it. A lot of these pieces were based on the scripts that were being used in the hunt and gather world, right? But just now being performed automated and the data being dumped somewhere. So you still had to do a lot of searching and correlation and filtering to get through to all the right data and generate any kind of a report. Then you took all these kind of on-prem in-house solutions, and now you have offerings from third-party vendors that take these capabilities and offer them up on the cloud. So you have performance monitoring tools, you have logging tools, you have consoles and ticketing systems and service desks and all this stuff. Yet they're all from different providers and they're not very integrated, right? So the concept of a modern IT operation requires us to start um, breaking down these silos. These silos that started back in the set of tools that were used by each of the different areas that are now, our information is siloed within different vendors and different tool sets within the cloud. You know, we've just taken the silos and moved them to the cloud. What we need is a solution that provides all of this, right, within one cloud, right, within one offering. And really, that's what we're moving to. That's what Oracle is looking to offer you. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Yeah, there's a lot of methodologies out there. The hot one right now is DevOps, right? You hear DevOps, everybody's, we want to do DevOps. I want to be the DevOps. How do we get to DevOps? There's a lot of things going on to say that you're trying to move on the direction of DevOps. Only one of those pieces, right, happens to do with monitoring. They all put together. DevOps is the blending of IT operations, of development and quality assurance, right, into this almost ethereal process that takes something from a concept to code to being tested to being in production in a perfectly smooth and organized and almost hands-free fashion. Well, in order to do that, you have to have tools that can monitor processes, that can monitor things, can scale quickly, can quickly adapt to monitoring different types of applications, right? So you're looking for things, for a tool that can get more information, that can correlate information from multiple points in depth and in breadth, right? So not only are we trying to correlate little things together within the same technology stack, but also try and find correlations across technologies, across resources, and that depth and breadth being able to look into detail. Quickly deploy these tools, right? Being able to quickly deploy them without having to spend the time of building up additional servers and installing software and all that other stuff. And then also having some very intelligent reporting. So all that data that's being gathered needs to be presented in a concise, easy fashion to digest, right? And condensed right? Dense information, right? Rich and dense information on a single screen. We're going to see how that works in a second. But being able to do this intelligent reporting so that you don't have to spend your time doing the reporting and creating the reports yourself off of spreadsheets or different data points. Now, to get there, we kind of have some competing demands, right? You have the concept of your typical monolithic IT operations monitoring system, right? These are where you actually purchase the software, you purchase hardware to run that software on, and you have to have people and resources to provide the updates and the upkeep of all that software and all that hardware, right? So there's tools out there. Obviously, Oracle provides tools like Enterprise Manager that provide this, but new IT, areas of your operations that require high speed, high growth, possibly the need to expand and contract as on demand, they need newer tools. They're bleeding edge. They are working on technology that perhaps the monolithic tools haven't quite deployed new capabilities for, or that the cycle of updates is faster than a typical piece of software can be updated in each year, right? You need that faster deployment where I don't need to deploy more hardware just because I have a new resource or a new commerce site or a new something. I just want to deploy it and have ability to monitor and use the tools on that site. These two things are in conflict, right? These two opposites are in conflict. What Oracle's done is it's made it easy to jump on one and still leverage the other. So Oracle Management Cloud really, as a standalone solution, allows you to do all these capabilities. But if you have the other like Enterprise Manager tools, it's going to leverage a lot of that information as well. So it can either be used as a standalone solution to provide complete operations tools, across monitoring, across IT analytics, across log analytics, or it can be used also in conjunction with Enterprise Manager to leverage all the information you've already set up there, the architecture, the topology information that it's gathered, and have that mimicked by the Oracle Management Cloud. So it really is a best of both worlds, right? It can extend upon your existing management solution of Enterprise Manager, or it can be standalone. Now, how does it work? Well, what happens is that there's a whole lot of data being generated by your data center, right? That data is a combination of machine-generated data, i.e., if nobody was on the systems, this data would still be created, right? CPU levels, memory usage, disk usage, network bandwidth information, things like that. Then there's customer-generated data, things having to do with transactional information, right? Dates and timestamps information for transaction calls, session calls, connection calls, things like that, service calls, all this stuff, data going back and forth for particular transactions. There's all this additional customer-generated data. All of that is uploaded via a set of tools, some agents, basically continuously ingested into your Oracle Management Cloud environment. That environment, right, which is hosted by Oracle, maintained by Oracle, lives on the Oracle Public Service Cloud, right? It's all out there, and it gathers information, it correlates it, parses it, whatever it needs to do, does machine learning on it, right? It looks for patterns, it looks for associations, and it's doing all this in real time in order to allow you to quickly go out there and have a comprehensive solution to look across a bunch of different data points and metrics. Again, a rich and highly dense set of information in a small package. We'll see what that looks like. The ability to quickly identify anomalies, right? Here are things that have been going normal for forever. This is the norm, and it sees something that's different, and it's happening a lot recently, so it's going to call your attention to it. And then the ability to have, again, real-time insight into performance issues or resource usage issues or things like that. So all of that is happening on the Oracle Cloud. And what you can do with it is pretty amazing. You have 3 features that are currently being offered under the Oracle Management Cloud. There's application performance monitoring, which is the ability to monitor that touch point with your users, right, or your service calls, that front end, the end user experience, the system performance, the ability to diagnose any performance issues very quickly. Log analytics. As you're identifying performance issues and diagnosing them, the ability to drill down into log data and create very rich and informative um, background information for how to best solve the problems or identify problems that maybe the performance monitoring tools weren't able to specifically pinpoint, right? It can see that there's a problem, but you'll drill down to the logs to identify the exact issue with a SQL or service call or something. And it allows you to do that. And lastly is IT analytics. Now, this is something that is going to leverage a lot of the information that enterprise manager is collecting, as well as information that is collecting, APM is collecting, and generating future resource predictions, right? The ability to plan for future growth, to run a what if analysis about what may be going on, and be prepared to make decisions, 6th, 7th, 8th month down the line, right? There's a study out there that says you can pretty much define your influence to a company based on how far away the decisions you make impact actual actions. So if you're looking at IT analytics, you're not trying to solve a problem now. You're not trying to figure out a problem that occurred in the past hour, the past day, or past week. You're trying to prevent issues from occurring 6, 7, 8 months, a year down the line, right? You're looking for trends so you can identify we're going to need more hardware, more memory, more CPU. We're going to have to solve this memory leak issue in the next 3 weeks or in the next 6 months. Otherwise, we're going to run into bigger issues later on. Okay, so that's what that does. Let's take a look at each of these a little bit closer. Application performance monitoring. Again, end user monitoring. This is where the management cloud is going to monitor and gather information about the end users that are coming into the system through the web servers and the application servers via calls, right? The middleware that's handling all the back-end service calls and transactions that are being bounced around your systems. And of course, lastly, the database, drilling down and understanding what's going on at the database level from a database call sequence perspective. That is APM. It's that first level of monitoring information, that first level of defense. Then you have your log analytics cloud service, right? In the log analytics cloud service, you're looking at a tool that is aware of the topology. It's not just grabbing data and dumping it somewhere. It's grabbing data and it's tying it to a reference of servers and applications and technologies that are on those particular areas. And you are able to traverse to the logs from APM. So it's an integrated feature. As you're looking through the application performance and you see performance issues, you can go directly to the logs associated with the server or the application or the service that's having that performance issue and drill down deep and further. And of course, in logs, you're able to correlate information across multiple logs so that you can see that, hey, there was an error in this particular location. But as I drill down, I find out that truly it was this fatal message error that occurred in this other log that was the root source. And I can quickly trace through because as I add linkages and references or the log analytics tool pull those up for me, I'll be able to see exactly where the original issue is. And we'll look through that a little bit while we're doing the demo. The last piece is IT analytics. And again, this is more about looking into the future, right? This is about understanding the impact of certain activities and certain performance data as you trend that going forward into time. And we'll see that also during the demo. So that concludes the presentation side of things. And if you'll hold on briefly, we will jump into the demo. All right. So you should be seeing the landing page for the Oracle Management Cloud now. And we're going to start by going down into the application performance monitoring. So this is the APM, as we'll call it for short, application monitoring cloud. And we seem to be having a little bit of an issue. Let me log out. It's possibly that I logged in a half hour ago. Let me log back in and see if perhaps I didn't time out. Huh. 1 second. I'm going to just refresh this information and refresh this quick environment and see what's going on. There we go. All right. Thank you for your patience. All right. So here we go. I've gone out and basically what I did is I just refreshed and changed the view. And what we're looking at is basically the last information from the last 7 days, which I've gone back out there. And this is, again, that APM landing page. What we've got here is just an ability to look at a variety of information about everything that we're monitoring right now. So this is everything that we have in the management cloud at this time. We can look at pages, right, across geography, and we can organize the heat map based on different things. We can decide whether it's we want to know where the average response time is highest, where the max is actually highest, right? Which actually the maximum has actually occurred in North America as well, but on average, we see that the Africa continent is having the slowest response times for certain pages. I can look at total views to see where traffic is coming from, right? So I quickly can identify that even though Africa is getting really slow performance time, it's not really my busiest section, right? Most of my views are coming from Asia and South America, right? And I can also look at at the number of errors and error percentages. So of the number of transactions or calls that we've had, the EU and Australia are having most of our errors, although truth be told, we're really way down in the gray area, so it's hard to show anything that's happening at that point. Across the bottom, we have our ability of our top 5 in each of our respective logical monitoring areas, page views, right, or pages that are loading, server requests, right, and server requests, there could be multiple server requests per page, if you know your topology, and any app servers that we're monitoring. In this case, everything is running on one particular app server. As I look across the app server and the applications or the server requests running, right, across app servers, I can quickly see that rideshare checkout is having the highest average response time. I can also sort this around, right? The box size is by total call and the color is by response time. Right now I'm saying that one of my top 10 is easily rideshare checkout, shopping cart, get, right? That server request is definitely my most called, but rideshare checkout's got something odd going on with it. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take me to that server request. And this view allows me to look at this rideshare checkout server request and all the underlying server calls or service calls or SQL calls related to it. Right? So I'm looking at this diagram where we see the initial server request, and as I highlight each area, it walks me through the subsequent server calls that call made. Right? So as I float over a different thing, we got a different service call and a different SQL call that occurs. And even when we drill down to the SQL, if you look over in the tooltip area, right, you actually see the SQL call that was executed, right, so you can drill down and find out further what's going on at those points. Now, my views can be modified, and I really like several of these features. For example, the node size, right, is right now weighted self time, as in the time it calls stuff, but I can actually reference it based on average response times, right? So which ones are the slowest? And then maybe the arrow width can be number of errors, right? So where are most of my errors flowing? And very quickly I can see that my slowest calls are also where most of my errors are flowing from. That should not be surprising, right? If I have errors, that means there's pauses occurring, there's activity being delayed, and so I'm going to have my slowest time. Right, so it's a very quick way to visualize exactly what's going on over time. Now, this view allows me to go do quite a few other things. I can look at all the links that tie into this particular server or service call. Right, so I know all the links that come into. I'm looking at over the past 7 days. Right, that link we're honoring the original selection of time metrics I was looking at. How much time is being spent for server calls in a particular area. I can drill down and look at who's calling these particular service calls, and the checkout is being called by the checkout agent call. Right? I can drill down to the database for this particular application and look at all the SQL calls that are being generated by this server request. So checkout is performing the submit, the place order, the check availability, etc. And I can see response times over time of the various SQL calls down, and whether or not there's any number of errors occurring in the different SQL calls. Right? So we're able to very quickly drill down into these features. Right? If I go and start looking at it from a page list perspective, so I'm going to jump back up a level, right? With word server requests, we're going to go up a level to the actual page list. These are the pages being offered by my application, right? So behind this is where all these service calls. And as I look through this and over time, again, I can slide and see average load time of pages. So this is how long it's taken for a page to load on a user screen. And I'm looking at averages for all the users coming in. I see the average load time. I can see the maximum load time for this page at over a certain period of time. So, here we are at between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. on the 17th, right? We have a maximum load time of over 4 seconds. So that's not very good. And then we have an average page load time of 1.1 seconds. So, we seem to have come down on the average, but we did have a peak. So that means to me I only had a couple pages that went really high because I really want my average to be low. But I may want to go and find out what these really long peak times were causing at that time, right? Now, also my average might be affected because we have a very low traffic rate at that point, right? So we have, that was kind of our slowest time from a traffic perspective for that tool, for that call. So lots of information you can sit here and drill down into as far as visibility. Now we can drill from here, right, into any one of these. Again, we can click on that order app. We see that the page information for that order app. So if I drill down, again, we're looking at 7 days of history. We are seeing the information on page load time, right, on the breakdown of page load. So of that time that it was taking the load, how much of that data was interactive, right, as in waiting for information to flow back and forth via the service calls and such, and how much was just the first byte, right? How long did it take for that first byte of information to make it out to the user? And sure enough, most of the time you're going to want to see a correlation here where they're pretty even, right? That means fluid dynamics or fluid calls. And then of course down here you'll see a total number of calls with, if there were any errors, you would see a little tiny message here, the bottom red, that would show errors. But we've had no errors over this period of time, and we're able to see our page views. So in this view, right, what I can do is I can quickly, what can I quickly identify? Well, if I go and I highlight our highest max load time was in the middle of the night, right here over time, when we also had quite a bit of load, right? And I noticed that we definitely have a correlation. At our highest load times, right, we do tend to have our highest peak time, with one weirdness here, where we had very low load and a high peak time. Again, late hours, 5 to 7 a.m. On the 20th. So that might be worth looking at in case that's being caused by some kind of maintenance of activity going on in the middle of the night that could impact users, right? But a very quick way to look at that. Behind it, we can see, again, we go to our geography views. We have our ability to look at what are the AJAX calls that are coming in, and of course, drill down into that server request that we saw earlier that takes us into the order app. All right. We saw this earlier where we're drilling down the server request. Again, you're able to figure out where we're spending most of our time. So this particular server request, order.jsp, we see that the vast majority of our time waiting for the server request is spent on waiting on the database to respond, right? 250 milliseconds on average spent on that time. We're back into that view, okay? So that's a quick overview of APM and some of the features within APM. One of the other things that I can show you within APM is to go into the app server, right? Where we've actually drilled into the application server. We're only monitoring one. So we're drilling down now into the server that is hosting all these server calls in these web pages. And so we're in this server call. We're able to, again, we're looking over time. We're looking at one of the critical values, which is heap size usage. We see it trending upwards, right, over time. We see our max and our average, right, or committed heap size usage, and then the average actual used. So we see that we haven't actually hit our max at any point, although we are continuously trending upwards, right? And then garbage collection, another important trend, right? So how is garbage collection impacting the application? And if you are seeing issues, one of the things that you will find, and you can quickly see visually right here with the data we've gathered, is that as you have a lot of garbage collection events and a lot of garbage collection going on, your CPU will spike, right? It will follow that trend. It takes CPU in order to handle the cleanup of a garbage collection event. And pardon me, one of the issues that you run into is as your JVMs begin to use more and more memory, right? The application server becomes very aggressive about performing garbage collection due to the fact that it doesn't want you to run out of memory. It wants you to free up memory. And so we are seeing that occurring over time. And as we get closer to that maximum heap size, that's going to be an issue that we'll want to track and look forward to here and identify. The other thing you can do is from here, right, as you're looking at this app server and you're seeing unusual issues, I can go straight into the log for that application server, right? And I can start traversing that app server's logs, looking for data, looking for information. I'll let this finish loading. But that is one of the things that you're going to want, that integration between log analytics and the app analytic application performance manager, where you actually have topology aware log collection. And as you're looking at those performance metrics being gathered, you can then drill down into the logs and identify issues or performance issues or the cause of performance issues that are there. You'll also be able to report on any interesting things that look just odd, right? So being able to create a search for specific log alerts, specific log entries that you want to be aware of, right, and track for, because they're telltale signs of something bad going to occur. Sometimes they're generated by the servers and the applications, and sometimes they're programmatically generated. So that is your application performance monitoring view, right? That's the key view there in performance monitoring. Now, the other tool that I like to show you today is the log analytics, and that's this next feature here. So as I click on that, I'm going to click on log analytics, and it's going to take us to a landing page for log analytics. I'm actually going to bump up to the front here and take us back to the home dashboards. I want to show you a different way of navigating into the logs. So these are some dashboard pages, right? And what I've done, I've gone ahead and selected, I want to look at log analytics. And one of the ones that I'm going to look at is this rideshare application dashboard, right? This nice view here of the rideshare application. Now, although most of the time, and for the majority of history at IT, logs have been used to help resolve or identify performance issues. But one of the things that logs can contain and can be very easily gather information from are business activity, right? So metrics on the actual business side of applications that are being used or services that are being used, the point of your business being active on the web. So what we've done here is we've created a rideshare dashboard that is representing log information, but in a business way. Right? We're seeing a count, right, of the number of accepted rides over a period of time. Right? We're seeing a breakdown of where those rides are being accepted across our major markets, right? And the kind of rides that are being taken. This is all business data. This is not information relevant really to IT for the most part, but it's being gathered by the log analytics tool. Now, one thing we are noticing is that right around, we've been pretty steady from 2 a.m. in the morning, when everybody's out, I guess at happy hour or late, early morning happy hour, all the way through right up until about 2 o'clock, right? For some reason, at 2 o'clock, we've run into a bit of a downturn into some performance issues here, right? So what can we do? What is going on right at this time? Well, let's dive a little deeper, right? What if we want to go figure out what's going on with these rideshares? So I'm going to click here on the edit view, and it's going to take us into the log search that identified, right, this graph that we're showing in the dashboard. And what we see here is how we've defined this rule. It's like we're looking at systems rideshare, right? And we're looking at the log entries within this role that meet a certain target field, meet certain results field, etc. And what we see, right, as we're rolling through here is these entries in the logs. What I'd like to point out to you is that these log entries contain information that is automatically being identified by the log analytics tool, right? Things like the target server, right? The web logics, the type of a server that we're looking at, right? This is all being pulled from these. The host and server name that we're connected to, and within it we actually see the data that we're pulling for the other dashboards, right? The order type, the customer number if we need to look at that, the region, right? All information that in this particular case developers have begun to type into or enter into a log so that it can easily be gathered and displayed from this perspective without having to do SQL on the database, which is busy enough servicing information, right, for the actual business activity. So you're able to drill down, perform all deals. You can hyperlink on any one of these to drill down. I want to just look at rideshare app 01. So this the only the 01 node of that application. I can see right here it doesn't seem to be applying any issues. Right, that one didn't have a drop off. So let's go look at now our rideshare app 02. Now that again seems to be running just fine, no issues. Right, we didn't have a drop off on that one. So I'm curious, what is going on? Let's narrow it down to just these 152 records that occurred at that time. Let's drill down deeper into this level. And we saw this drop, right? We went to these lower count of sessions, and I can start looking through these. And maybe I would just want to look for something like, what if I want to search for an error ID, right? Let's look for this error ID. Well, all 152 of those entries at that point had that error ID, that BEO00. So now I'm looking at just the link. So I can very quickly create and modify my search fields, right, in order to bring up the log entries that are going to help me resolve the issue of why we're having this drop down in search time or performance issues. All right. So log analytics lets you quickly drill through that. I could, at any point I can go out there and limit through a specific set of targets. Whether I drop 03, but it really allows you to target your searches appropriately, just the way you want. Now, one of the things I could do is, if I wanted to, I could say that I want to group by, let's say, the particular target. Right? Remember, we looked at the different application servers that were running at a time, or the application nodes. So I could say, just go ahead and organize me and highlight in color the percentage of hits across this that are going to a particular application. And as I look at this, right, I think I just found my problem. Rideshare 3 was doing right just fine until suddenly it fell off the face of the earth, right around 219. Somewhere between 218 and 220, Rideshare 3 fell off the face of the earth, right? So what do I want to do now? Well, maybe I should go look at setting entries from Rideshare 3 and see what happened to those last couple entries. So I can click here, click submit, target down, go look at those last ones that occurred in the last few minutes and see if I see anything for any additional information. Now, in this case, I don't. I'm seeing some other calls that are coming in, but this does give me a very close clue to say I need to go look at this the third node of Rideshare app and find out what occurred that it basically died here in that last minute spread. It stopped receiving sessions information. All right, that's just an example there. All right, so let's go ahead and drill down into some of the other tools that are out there. Take us back to the home dashboard. And we're going to drill over here. And I want to go and look at the IT analytics side of things. So we've looked at performance monitoring. We've looked at the log analytics. Now let's just get a flavor for IT analytics and the kind of information that it can provide. So in IT analytics, again, what you're looking for is information about predicting the future, right? We all want to be able to do it. How do we do that, right? How do we understand what's going on? So let's take a look at a very common use of this is to go look at some analytics about the database, right? So as we drill down into the database, let's look at what's been occurring over the past little bit of time. So here we are looking, right, at a 1 month period of time. right? So now our scale, right, of viewing at data, right, the aggregate information has completely changed. We've gone from looking at minutes and minutes and seconds. Now we're looking across months because again, we're looking at an analytical view of IT resources to understand what's going on and when we may or may not have issues. So here we have our overview of all the different applications that we're looking at. I'm going to go back in time to a particular date, though. There's a particular event that I want to look at, and it happened way back in 2015. Oh, so long ago. Let me go back and select that. And we'll let it go ahead and to here, and we'll let it go up to today. And we'll go ahead and let it run. Now we're going to analyze all this information and present it back. So here we are, looking at just a couple months short of a year of activity, 3-4 months short of a year of activity. And we're looking at our trend lines. What do I see? I see that our CPU definitely is trending up, right? We have been adding either more traffic or more usage over a period of time, and I can see that trending up over a period of time, right? I can see our IOs, right, for the database definitely spiking significantly up and down, right, going all over the place. I can see that our table space allocation is creeping up slowly. And then one of the things that is very interesting is our interconnect, right? So as I'm looking at this, we see some very dramatic drops, right? Now, in the real world, you could attribute this to hardware updates, maybe firmware updates, whatever the case may be. But even though we've been updating possibly our network connectivity, what we're seeing is that that's not really impacting our usage of I/O or CPU. We're still trending up on those. So maybe we've been addressing the wrong thing. So let's drill down and take a look at our CPUs here, right? I mean, what's going on here at this level? At CPU, right, it's able to start breaking down things and presenting them on an individual database level, right? So all the database instances within a particular or across all your databases that you're monitoring, right, you're able to go look at all those database instances. They may be on the same version, right, here. They may be on different versions. We got 11.203 and 11.202, and you can see them based on size. You can group by target version. You can group by lifecycle status. So there is the concept of the lifecycle status of different environments, whether it's a mission critical environment, development, stage, production, etc., right? Or maybe there's by a cost center, right? You want to know who's really supposed to be paying for things if they're getting bigger and bigger. Track that down. So a lot of different ways. Of course, a very popular one is to actually identify and by which servers are on which hosts. And here we see a lot of hosts, single instance servers and databases that are being tracked, and some that are a little bit more shared and span. Now, me personally, I like to look at it from just a breakdown, no particular breakdown, just see my hottest databases, which ones are the hots. And I look at those here, and I can see the CPU, right, set up here, and it's trending, right? So we see the historical perspective, we see where we end up, and we see that green line trending. Now, I can actually change the forecasting, the regression model, etc., to choose, right, different capabilities, different confidence levels, show the different channels that it may fall into. If I were to go in here and say, let's just use, the log n feasibility, and let's raise our confidence level to 95%. Let's run that probability now. And it takes just a second to run. And now you see it analyzed again. So again, gives me this, similar in this situation, but depending on metrics being gathered, different selections, and what we can walk through different options for what different metrics or different algorithms, regression models will give you. Right? We can do the old exponential model. Let's go ahead and click on run on that one. It gives you different visibility into what may or may not be the cost. So this one, of course, the exponential model is probably not a good fit here because we have very similar trends and very flat line trends. But anyways, you're able to trend that forecast line and see whether or not you're going to fall within a certain range of performance usage. Over time, we're able to see very quickly our available CPU, what we can trend to, how much space, how much availability we have. And this ability to look at the data and trend it appears at all the different levels, right? at I/O, at storage, right? Um, at a variety of different sources, and even at the interconnect. You can go back and switch it to look at your app server level. So let's go look at the middleware analytics, right? So I'm going to go back to go to my dashboards, and let's go look at log analytics for middleware. So for the middleware layer, right, where we're running our application servers, we're able to look at this across, again, a variety of different metrics for application servers, most critical of which is probably heap usage, right? Host memory usage, so not just memory usage within the JVM, but also total usage of the host, and how much CPU is being used by the actual WebLogic host, right, or the WebLogic server. So here we're broken down across multiple targets by heap size usage. Most of our servers run in the 2 to 8 gigabyte heap size range. We have a few that get quite large, right? We have 2 in the 32 to 38 gigabyte range. As I drill down into those, I'm going to look into the servers themselves and actually see which servers are the ones that fall into that range. So we have Rideshare Test 02 and Ride Test 01A. I see that they are definitely flying up and maxing, getting real close to their heap size usage, right? And then coming back down and going back up. So there's definitely some garbage collection going on there, some activity. And I can see that trend line continues, right? Now, what it tells me here is that it believes, based on trending, that this is going up just slightly each time. And as we look forward over time, it's expecting that heap size to get slightly larger and slightly larger and slightly larger each time it goes up. So we're definitely at risk, right, of running out of our heap size here. What about memory on the actual servers, right? If heap size is a concern, eventually we're going to have to grow that heap size and get that memory from somewhere else. So I can look at memory usage across these by the various servers across particular hosts, right? And see what's going on. And again, we're seeing that trend line expanding, that it's just seeing a slight increase over time. If you were just looking at a week's worth of data, you might not see that. But this trend line is forecasting based on data that goes back all the way to, in this case, we're visualizing back to February, but the data being used to come to this conclusion is trending back to when we originally started capturing information. And at any point in time, you can drill down to these servers and traverse into more detail and find out exactly what may be going on. So, you can traverse and change your data set view. You can drill down into a particular app server and look at historical information there for that particular app share only. Right. So here now we're looking again. It's managing that. It's following that same trend. It's obvious. It's a demo environment, so we're synthetically creating easily viewable situations. And then, of course, lastly is looking at CPU and trending that over time to see if you are at risk of running out. And that CPU is listed here by by particular CPU usage, by server, right? And grouped into particular host names. So again, you see that trending growth of CPU usage based on what it's seeing over time. All right. All right. Well, we're finished a few minutes earlier. So that concludes our demonstration. Let's take a quick review just for a second of what it is that we saw today. Right. We saw the Oracle Management Cloud, and we saw several key features from the Management Cloud. At APM, application for application performance monitoring, the ability to look at good user experience, assure good user experience, be alerted to poor user experience. The ability to look across all your environments, aggregate that information so you can see correlations across environments, or drill down deep into specific metrics for a particular service call, a page call, the AJAX call from pages, etc., and triage across tiers. Right, we saw the calls coming from the web server, looking at the service calls inside the app servers, and even looking at the SQL calls to the database and being able to look at what's going on and identify any issues there. We saw log analytics, right? The ability to capture all those logs, automatically parse them, clickable, searchable, organized, the ability to use logs for more than just IT debugging, right? Generate business actionable information from the logs by showing information such as the amount of traffic, the number of rides, or the type of products being sold or service calls being said. So you can actively monitor the business side of IT as well, right? And then lastly, IT analytics, The ability to take all that information you're gathering, consume it, analyze it, trend on it, right? And look at whether or not do you actually need to make that purchase of four additional massive servers in order to handle that. Are we going to run out of disk space over the course of the next few months or before Q4? Do we need to prepare for that activity on Black Friday and the holiday sales season? And are we seeing that we almost didn't make it this season? How are we going to do next season, even after we did what we thought were enough performance improvements on the application? How's that trending? So that ability is there. Altogether, that is the Oracle Management Cloud, and that's what's going to allow you to deliver on the promise of fast IT, a complete solution, a complete diagnostic solution, log analytics solution, IT analytics solution, the ability to look through all that thoroughly and quickly analyze that and send that across multiple users. All right. So we do have the ability to ask a couple questions. I'll go ahead and point that out now. Please feel free to expand that little section in your webinar control panel and type in which question or your question there, and I can review it and answer it here. The first question is, can you buy each product separately? Absolutely. Each one, APM, Log Analytics, and IT Analytics, are all independent products, so you can get them or use them however you like. And you're able to purchase them independently. Now, we always recommend that kind of APM and Log Analytics go hand in hand. You really want to use them together. So feel free to use them separately. But if you talk to us, my recommendation is always APM and Log Analytics. They're very complementary. You should use them together. Another question is, how is security handled for some of these applications? There's two different methods, but in general, there's the concept of gateways that are going to handle your connectivity between your data center or data centers and the Oracle Management Cloud. And those handle the security so that your data does not leave your data center without being encrypted. There's also the concept of data masking. If there's information you don't want to go up into the cloud for compliance reasons, that's fine as well. You're able to do that if you're seeing that in logs or somewhere else. You can handle that as well. All right. Well, that seems to be it for questions. Thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. We hope you found this insightful. You'll be receiving an email with contact information for us should you like to have further discussions about the Oracle Management Cloud or anything else we talked about today. And you can also use this information to review the slides, as those will be included in the documentation materials. Thank you very much and have a great day. Goodbye. This concludes the presentation.